welcome to the very first episode of the Listen and Lattes morning show. We are taking this morning show and we are going to put it on the podcast, the Listen and Lattes podcast that I've hosted for probably 10 episodes. I'm going to be more strategic about it. I've said I was going to do that for a really long time, but now I'm actually putting my money where my mouth is because I have a whole new direction of where I'm going in my own business. I am going to start really tailoring my efforts to less service-based social media, brand identity design, website design, less about that and more about the real strategy, the coaching aspect of it, doing more speaking events. That's really where I feel like my career is kind of shifting this year. I've spent this entire year in 2019 really setting a foundation to create systems and bring on a team and build them, and still continue to service the clients that I already have, but for myself, really building up my personal brand and really focusing on taking what I do to the next level and reaching more people, helping more people, and just giving people the more hands-on one-on-one help to not only help just their marketing, but their entire business, and really looking at it to where your business can affect your life and your life can affect your business, and you can have it work symbiotically and help each other grow and flourish to something that you really want, right? Where I'm all about creating a life that you super, super love, that fits your family, that fits your ever evolving and growing and changing life, because as human beings, there's so many different things that happen to us throughout the year, throughout the month, throughout life, that we need to make sure we're building businesses that are able to change with us and not make us feel stifled, right? Most of us go into owning a business because we want freedom. We want to feel like we can decide our schedules. We can take vacation when we want. We can be with our family when we need to. We can spend as much time as we want to on our business, but that's going to change and fluctuate depending on what's happening in our lives. And so it's really important for me to not only in my own business feel like I'm doing what I'm led to be doing as far as like what my heart wants to do, what my soul wants to do, what my mind wants to do, feel like I'm growing and changing all the time, but also look at where my family's at and look at where just our goals are as a family, what we want to be doing with our lives, and making sure that I am building a business in order to serve that purpose and not just working for the sake of working. So today's topic is intuition versus planning and strategic vision. So I had a conversation this week with a woman who seems amazing. I don't know a lot about her, but she's a coach and she really is focused on soul-led coaching, having people listen to their inner voice and have that guide them. And so I'm going to get to know her a little bit more next week. I'm really excited about it, and she might want to be a guest on this. I think it'd be really fun. So you can hear a little bit more about what she does, but she said something in our conversations that really struck me as interesting. And I wanted to speak on this today as my first episode because I feel like we think of things in two different ways. And I know I did. I was always not growing up, but like even when I started having babies, I was a new mom. You have all these moms that are like super structured, that are like, my kid goes down for a nap at this time, we eat at this time, we have a calendar, we have a schedule. And I had a lot of pushback against that. I was definitely like I'm a fly by the seat kind of mom, right? Like I prided myself in being that person. Like we just kind of did whatever we want. Like I didn't want our schedule dictating the things that I could and could not do, right? And if that's the kind of mom you are, kudos to you. Like I just wasn't that kind of a mom with babies growing up. I was like, my kid naps anytime. Like my kid naps in a car seat. My kid naps in a stroller. Like we're going to go to the zoo or go to lunch with a friend when I decide. I don't want my kid's schedule dictating my life. And that was just me as a person. That's just how I wanted to roll. So I had a lot of resistance to creating schedules and systems in my life when I had little kids. And I think that carried on a little bit when I started becoming a business owner. I started my career, I guess, or my own entrepreneurship journey, just being a photographer. I was, doing a photography business, and I started kind of doing more things for people. They would ask me for website design. They would ask me for social media strategy. And it was definitely something where I was like, I'll just figure it out. I was absolutely led through this journey of my business by people asking questions and me wanting to deliver for them, me wanting to provide that value and provide that service. I did not sit down and say, in 10 years, I want my business to be this. I absolutely just kind of, whenever something felt right, I said yes. And I tried it. And if I probably failed a million times on every single thing that I did, but I worked it out. And the things that I hated doing, I stopped doing. the things that really lit me up and made me excited, I continued to do and get better at and hone. But it definitely, this happened both in my real life and in my professional life, my business. I would sit down and be like, how did I get here? Like, I am drowning in these lives. Like with these little kids, I'm like, I have 6 humans that need me. And I just feel like have IVs attached to my body. And there's still some days I feel like this. I just felt like people were draining the life out of me. Like these little kids were just sucking the life out of me. And I had no structure, no stability. I felt like my house was out of control. My life was out of control. Everything was just reactionary. Every time something happened, I would react to it and put out fires. But I just felt like I was always doing that. Like I was always putting out fires. And this, again, I'm going to say, it's not like it only happened when my kids were little and they like grew to be this age and everything miraculously got fixed. That is not the case at all. Anytime I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed or I feel like my plate's too full or I feel like something is off, I stop and I sit down and I reflect and I say, where can I create stability and systems and a foundation to where I don't have to feel like this anymore? So there was a point in my life where I was like, this is hard. And it wasn't, I don't think, until we had that rhythm of school, like I had my oldest child starting to be in kindergarten and then the other kids started school, I realized that as like, even though there's times where I get worn out by our schedule, even though like at the end of the year, you're like, God, if I have to get up and take you to school one more time, like it's exhausting. It really did give us that structure to be able to flourish. And in the time that I did have, I was getting so much more done than when it was like summer and no one had to be anywhere. And we were just kind of like floating through our day, right? I had all the time in the world to do the things I needed to do. But when I have that boundary of like, your kids are at school at this time, you have until this time to pick them up, you better get your stuff done in that time, I would just be able to get so much more done. It was crazy. So I've noticed in my own business too, like I was starting to get to where I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling like I am spending hours and hours and hours on these things. I'm not putting any boundaries. I'm working whenever I feel like it. And that worked for me. That worked for my family. I wasn't like I get done with work at 5 and then I'm done. I was like, I work all the time. I work anytime. And I love what I do. And I've always loved what I do. I've never been in a situation where I haven't done things I liked. I always continue to do the things that I love and I get rid of the things I don't. So it was easy for me to work till 3 a.m. It was easy for me to wake up in the middle of the night and get a project done. It was easy for me to work while we're watching the Olympics or whatever it is, right? Like I don't mind doing all of that, but it absolutely kept feeling like, man, my business is running my life. I'm not running my business. And I just it started to wear me down. It was fine for a while and it worked. And I didn't hate it, but I just also wanted to feel like I was more in control and I was being more intentional with my time because money is important. Money is like, I love money. I love being able to like support my family with what I do, but time is something that you don't get more of. Like I don't get more hours in the day, right? We never know how much money how much time we get in this life. That is a very, very precious and limited resource. And so I wanted to make sure I was spending that time every single day in the way that was going to best fit not only me and benefit my family as well. So I looked at my business and I was like, okay, something needs to change here. What is that going to be? And I realized that with my production business, Rosemary Watson Productions, I never sat down and gave myself like a vision for the future. I was absolutely like, I just want to help people. Whenever someone needs help, let me see if I can do it. If I can and it seems fun, I'm going to say yes. And I didn't really put a lot of effort. Like I never got clients by paying for marketing. I never did that because I didn't have to. It was just like people that had hired me for photography would come back and say, can you do my web design? Or someone who I designed a website for would be like, can you manage my social media? And I just kept saying yes. And it worked. But at this point, I would say it was the beginning of maybe the end of last year, the beginning of this year, I was like, man, I need to really like think about what I'm doing here because my family's changing and growing. I'm noticing throughout the year, I'm feeling more stressed at certain times. I was noticing in holidays, like I wasn't spending the time I wanted to on my family and focused on them because I was so busy like playing catch up or trying to like deliver for clients. And I was like, man, this whole like saying yes and flying by the seat of your pants thing, it's just kind of wearing me down. So I looked at it and I said, okay, number one, what do I want to make happen with this business? And I did a lot of research. I've read a ton of books. One book that really, really made a huge impact, and I've talked about it on my blog this year. I've mentioned it a lot, but it was High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. And also I looked into this book called What the Heck is EOS? And it is an operating system for a business. And when I was introduced to these books, I was like, man, these are like the missing puzzle pieces of my life. Like, I'm not in balance. I'm so focused on making sure other people are happy that I'm not looking at myself and asking myself if I'm happy or the happiest I could be. And so looking at those books and looking at those resources, I was able to see not having a plan and a vision for where I want to go was not a good idea. I tell this to clients all the time. If you get in your car and you just start driving, the fact that you don't end up in New York City should not make you mad. You never set out to go there. So we should probably figure out where you're trying to go, and then we can figure out the strategy. Then we can figure out the roadmap. And it was all nice and good that I said that, but I never did that for my own business. I never looked at it, my business, and said, in 10 years, what do I want to happen? What do I want to make this? And so when I finally sat down and looked at Rosemary Watson Productions, I was like, okay, in 10 years, what do I want to be doing? Like, do I still want to be even doing this? Do I want to not be doing this? What do I want to make happen? And I realized, like, I'm going to need this forever, no matter what I do. There's a lot of different things I want to make happen in my life, but at the end of the day, I'm going to need to be able to produce content. I need to be able to produce a brand identity and a website for any business or any project that I'm going to be doing in the future. I'm going to need to be able to manage a social media account for even if it's just me as a person. I'm going to need to have that structure in place. So even if this is not a business and I'm going to grow to 3,000 employees or make $150 million a year, it doesn't matter. I'm going to need this forever. So after I saw and knew that, I was like, okay, so then what do I want to make happen with this business? Like, it's definitely going to be a vehicle for the rest of my life, but what does it need to do? Like, what do I need to actually make happen? So looking at that, I was like, man, making a 10-year plan for this is really hard. So what I decided to do was, what do I want to make happen in my family? Like, I'm 34, I'll be 35 at the end of this year. In 10 years, I'll be 44, almost 45. What does my life look like? Well, my husband will be 46. My oldest child will be 23. My next two kids will be 22, 21. The next two twins will be 19. And then Clementine will be 17. Like, everyone's going to be just about either graduated from high school or almost. So what do I want? What experiences do I want my family to have at that stage? And when I was able to think about it that way and think, okay, when my kids are that old, what do I want to happen? Well, I want to have a big ranch or like a farm. I want to have businesses where if they want to be a part of it and they want to participate and be a part of the business, they can jump in and start helping. I want to make sure we have multiple properties. So if we want to go to a cabin, we have our own cabin. If we want to go and have a lake house, we can do that. I want to have Airbnbs. Like, I had all of these visions, ideas for my family. So when I was able to look at that, I could then look at my business and say, okay, what needs to happen for those things to exist? If I want to have a celebration shop, if I want to have a store where people can come and host events, and we have decor, we have catering, we have a bakery, we have all these things because I love doing that and I want that for my family, my business now needs to be able to facilitate that. So how do we do that? And being able to work backwards on that was really eye-opening, and it made me able to make a step-by-step roadmap. So looking at it to where instead of, it's not that I'm not led by intuition. I definitely am looking at, like, where does my heart want to go? Where does my soul want to go? What feels good to me in my life? And then making a plan to go backwards. I don't feel like those two things need to be mutually exclusive. I don't think you need to either be strategic or intuitive. I think those two things can work together and do a very interesting dance together and make a perfect strategy. In fact, I think you almost do need both. I think you need to have that yin and yang of strengths to be able to make a plan based on where your heart is leading you. So that is kind of the big theme of my next year, 2020, is being able to be heart-led, being able to really understand the experiences that I want to have in my life and business, and then taking steps backward to build businesses in place for those. Knowing that my life is going to change, knowing that my kids' schedules change throughout the year, knowing that even month by month, I'm in different moods at different times. Every woman is. Knowing that and building businesses to be able to evolve and change with you, I think is going to be a huge game changer in making me feel fulfilled and making me feel like I'm in control of my life and my business, and knowing that I'm spending the time that I need to be spending in every area that needs me. So that is today's video. This is the first episode of Listen and Lattes. I'm so excited to be able to distribute this in all the places, and I will see you guys next Monday for episode 2. See ya.